Today I'm going to share the top minimalist mistakes to avoid, and I scoured the internet for these top mistakes so we could discuss them today. The first minimalist mistake that I saw repeated over and over again in blog posts and articles online was that when you become minimalist, your house can become too white, not personalized enough, and just plain boring. I personally do not have a minimalist aesthetic when it comes to my home. A minimalist aesthetic is usually a home that is decorated with very few items and they are all a neutral color or a lot of whites and maybe one other pop of color here and there. When your home has a minimalist aesthetic, it is very plain and basic and there isn't a lot of art on the walls. And while I feel I am a minimalist, I don't actually feel our home has a very minimalist aesthetic. We have lots of patterns and colors in our home, but that was one of the top things that I saw mentioned. I feel one way to avoid having a very stark home is just to make sure it's a little bit personalized. So if you have art on your walls, it could be art that you created or collected yourself from a trip you took. It could be pictures of your family. Just make sure that the items you do have in your home mean something to your family. And if you like that stark feeling, then I say go with it. If it makes you happy, why not? Second on my list is to avoid losing yourself and your personality when becoming minimalist. And I can see where this could happen if you were trying to emulate a certain minimalist out there or copy a certain minimalist style. I could see where you would lose your individuality or the creative parts of your life, like styling clothes or your home, all the things that usually you do with things. And if you have less stuff, I could see where people would say that. But I do feel you can actually still be very unique and creative and not have a whole ton of stuff. And what I do is I personally pick out clothes that I just feel the most comfortable in. So they may not seem minimalist to some people. I do wear a lot of black though, but I do have bright colored patterned shirts and stuff that sticks out, but I just don't have a lot of it. And it still works for me. So I don't feel that you have to lose yourself, but that was another thing that was on a lot of the articles that I read about minimalist mistakes to avoid. To not make minimalism so hard. I agree with this. When I first became minimal or started decluttering things, I would definitely not categorize myself as an extreme minimalist by any means at all. I do feel though I did make it a little harder than it needed to be. I worried, did I have too much stuff? Was I decluttering too much? Not enough? Were there a certain magic number of items that I should have? And I think it really just comes to you over time. And the more you declutter, you'll finally feel this happy spot. That's what happened with me. All of a sudden, it felt as if we had the perfect amount of stuff. It felt as if our home was clutter-free. There weren't a lot of extra little knickknacks and doodads all over our house, and I was happy with that. But we didn't go to an extreme side either, which I think works perfectly for our family. I say find that happy medium where you just feel comfortable, yet you don't have that annoyance of extra clutter or feeling like you're constantly shopping and filling your house with things that you don't really need. One thing I like to do when I'm cleaning up around my house or tidying is listen to audiobooks on Audible, which is today's sponsor. I'm currently listening to a book by Joshua Becker. I love all of his audiobooks and I've listened to a few of them now. Audible is the best place to listen for whatever you're interested in, from best-selling audiobooks in every genre to exclusive Audible originals to popular podcasts and more, and it's all in one place. As an Audible member, you can choose one title a month to keep from their entire catalog. And new members get to try Audible free for 30 days. I love it because I can discover new favorites and new formats like the exclusive Words Plus Music series or a podcast. I'm currently listening to The More of Less, It's amazing to be able to listen to books as I'm getting daily chores done or out and about in my daily life, going for walks. I can be inspired by listening to audiobooks on Audible. New members can try Audible free for 30 days. Visit audible.com/Shannon Torrens or text Shannon Torrens to 500-500. Another thing I saw mentioned over and over again was that minimalism is not a competition to own the least amount of stuff. It is just a way of living to make your life easier, save money, or be nicer to the environment. There are so many different reasons why people become minimalist or start decluttering or wanting less in their lives. And it can mean something different to every single person out there. So finding what it means to you can really help on the journey. For me personally, it was all about making my life easier, spending less money, and having less of an impact on the environment. Don't be upset or discouraged when you actually need something and you have to go shopping. This was a huge problem for me when we first became more minimal. I was decluttering so much. I kept trying to avoid shopping at all costs, which is great, especially when you are trying to downsize all of your stuff. But there just comes these times when you need something. So don't be upset when you do have to buy something and you have to go off a little bit of your decluttering journey to get the things you do need in your everyday life, because becoming minimal does not mean that you never shop again. It just means you might spend a little bit more time making educated decisions on what to purchase, buying more high-end goods if possible, or buying secondhand when possible as well, to have less of an effect on the environment, which is what I've been trying to do lately. One thing to think about is the real cost of your shopping habit. According to the Forbes website, the average American family spends about $1,700 a year on clothing. To put it into perspective, in 1930, the average American woman had about 9 outfits, and nowadays, the average American woman has about 30 outfits. Everyone is into different things. So if creating outfits is your thing, then maybe you'll have more clothes. For me, I was stressed out with a lot of extra clothing, so I have benefited from decluttering a lot of my clothing and going down to a very minimalist capsule wardrobe. I was falling into the trap of thinking you had to have a certain amount of something. And I see this out there a lot where people say, I only have 100 things in my house, or I only have 10 outfits, whatever it is. I don't think we need to go by a certain number. It should just be with your lifestyle. So if you like crafting or being very creative, you might have more of that. If you're more into outfits and being creative with your wardrobe, you're going to have more of that. I say make sure you tailor minimalism to fit your lifestyle. One of the first things that I decluttered was my closet, which included a ton of purses. I probably had around 20 bags and purses all together. I usually use just 1 or 2 of these purses. By decluttering all those extra bags that I barely ever use, I now have way more space. I went down to 1 bag that I use all the time and 1 backpack purse. By doing that, I have less things to organize, less things to deal with. So as you can see in this pile, I actually found even more things to donate. So all of this stuff amounted to this humongous trash bag. I would have never even thought that I still had this much stuff to get rid of. And there's probably even more. But do I feel every single minimalist should have 2 purses or less? Definitely not. That is what is working for me, and you got to do what works for you. And I would definitely avoid trying to think of minimalism in numbers. I saw this time and time again that people thought minimalism should just be simple and you declutter one time and you're completely done. But I have found over the years, we've been becoming minimalist and staying clutter-free for about 5 years now. It takes time and energy to stay minimal because things do creep into our home. And it's similar to when people say you organize once and then that's it. I have found with organizing, just like being minimal, staying clutter-free, you have to keep up on it. It does get easier after our initial declutter. It has been very easy to keep up on the decluttering because we got used to it and we know exactly how much we want to have in our house, but there does take this amount of maintenance, I would say, that you have to stick with and keep up on. Every season, I like to go through my home and see what can be decluttered. And I actually find a lot of things to declutter each month as I'm cleaning, going through my house on a regular basis. I will grab something, stick it in the declutter box, and move on with my day. On the one hand, minimalism frees up time, energy, and money for us to spend on the things we love to do. And then on the other hand, there is a little bit of maintenance with having to go through our home once in a while, declutter some items, and make sure we aren't having a lot of things coming into our home. It has freed up so much time and money. While doing this research on the top minimalist mistakes to avoid, I came across people saying that you should make minimalism work for you, make your home how you want it to look and feel. Don't feel as if you have to stick with that minimalist aesthetic. Make sure minimalism is a fun thing that helps you get to where you're wanting to go, whether that be to help with the environment, save money, save energy, and have to work less. Whatever your goal is, just stick with it and you will be so happy you did. While I did not come up with all of these minimalist mistakes to avoid, I agree with all of these because they are very true. I hope you can avoid these or make them work for you. Thank you so much for joining me today, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.